There's a little sneak peek of what's going to be going on for tonight's edition of the mmjhl podcast on G Show Productions. I'm your host, Graeme the G Show Forsyth. Welcome, Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League fans, to another week of content where I'm going to be featuring player and coach interviews in this one. Blair Mooney is going to join me first up in this week's episode, and then leading goal scorer of the mmjhl, Ryland Hueging, will join me as the second and last guest. And just to start things off, showing you guys, I guess, the upcoming schedule, since you've already seen it. At this point, against the Fort Garry Twins and the Stonewall Jets, the time I took this screenshot, it was just after the first period, as you can see there. We'll get the update for you in just a moment here, but an exciting Friday and Sunday slot of games. No Thursday night games this week. St. Vital usually holds that spot of hosting the Thursday nighters, but not this week. There'll be an Eric Coy, as all games will be at 7:30 p.m. Puck drop for that one, as the Hawks right now, if we take a look at the standings, are let's take a look here. The standings results. Yes, the standings. The Junior Canucks, of course, on top of the league standings, but the Charleswood Hawks, they are tied for second place at this point. The St. Vital Junior Victorias, only team to knock off the St. James Junior Canucks so far this year. And speaking of the Canucks, I had a chance to talk to Blair Mooney, head coach of the team, to talk about his 9 seasons of coaching, what this season has been like, that loss against St. Vital, and more on this edition of the mmjhl podcast to start things off. Enjoy, everybody. Head coach of the back-to-back defending champion St. James Junior Canucks, Blair Mooney, joins the mmjhl podcast now for episode 2. Blair, it's your 9th season as head coach of this Canucks team. Talk about how the experience has been throughout these 9 years.
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. I mean, it's flown by pretty quick. It doesn't really seem like it's been 9 years, but it has. So taking the team over in the 2015-16 season, it was the year before I took over. It was the first time they'd missed the playoffs in a long time. So they were kind of in need of a bit of a change. So we came in, myself, Matt Levins, and Sean Martin came in as new coaches. And the goal right from the beginning was to just try and create a winning culture and a team that people wanted to be a part of in St. James and proud to represent. So over the last 9 years, we've been fortunate to do that.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up because the moment you took over, like you said, it was the first time that team had missed the playoffs in quite a long time. Talk about, the steps more in depth into what went into building this group back into a team, like you said, in terms of St. James being a place where players want to play to have success.
Yeah, when I was a player, I played 4 years for the team, and so did Matt Levins. He's one of my best friends, and we played together like our whole lives. And Sean Martin, our other coach, is a little bit older than us, but he was part of the championship team in 97, 98. So we took pride in playing for the team when we did, and just to see kind of the direction that it had headed into. And it was just one where there were some players maybe not taking it as seriously as they should have, or maybe not taking the pride in wearing the jersey. So we wanted to instill that as the number one priority. It was just, we wanted to make it important to the guys and make them realize that it's a pretty high level of hockey that they're playing, and they should be proud of it and take it seriously and stuff. So there was quite a bit of turnover that first year. We made some tough decisions in terms of releasing some vets and stuff and bringing in some new blood, some new guys that, albeit young, still skilled but eager to learn. And we were able to kind of mold the team the way we wanted to do it right from the start. And then that group that came in together our first year, all those 18-year-olds, the year that we went to the finals and lost, actually, was their last year. So that they had kind of taken the program from where it was in the beginning when we first started coaching it all the way to one period away from the finals or winning the championship. So it was good to see that the hard work pay off for those guys, and more like you got to give the players the majority of the credit. We're there putting a lot of time in, but they're the ones doing the hard work on the ice. So
Yeah, and in that season in 2018-19, that Canucks team ran into the Pembina Valley Twisters, who was the top team in the league. Of course, that one going to 7 games in the finals. Did it hurt that much more, though, knowing that these 18-year-olds that were there in their last season, in that 2018-19 season, couldn't quite get over the hump? Is that what hurt the most, seeing that as a coaching staff?
yeah, I think that was a big part of it. I mean, those guys put a lot of work in, and we had a good chunk of them. Like there was quite a few guys that were 21 that year, and anytime you have players for 4 years straight, yeah, you get pretty close with them, and you want to see them succeed just as much as we wanted to be a part of it. But it was more for them, like I said before, they're the ones out there putting their bodies on the line and working hard at practice and all that stuff, and just to see them get so close and then not get to taste it in the end. But as much as it was unfortunate for them, it kind of set the table for the younger guys, and it set like a precedent on what we wanted, like the expectation for our team moving forward was to get back to the finals and make sure that we got a taste of it. But even though those guys didn't get to be a part of the winning the last couple of years, they were definitely a huge part of getting us to that point.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great point you bring up about how close, that coaching staff became with those players, making it, even more emotional in that aspect. But from a coaching perspective, what did you take away from that first finals appearance and that loss back in 2018-19 to use it moving forward in terms of maybe improving in terms of your coaching philosophy and style?
Yeah, that was the first time we'd been that deep in the playoffs with me as the head coach, and you learn things along the way. It's just like playoffs at any level. They it's just the amount of how often you're on the ice in such a short period of time. Like you're practicing day in, day out, games every second day, pretty much. And then the stuff that the players have to put their bodies through, and in order to get to that point, was you start to appreciate it. But from the coaching side of things, it was more of like trying to control the highs and the lows, and there's going to be games along the way you're going to lose. It's how you respond to it, and kind of adjusting your game plan, game in and game out, because other coaches are doing the same. So just trying to get one leg up on other teams at certain times, and the right times. But the biggest thing is making adjustments along the way, and just trying to, when you win a game, like not acting like you won the championship when you won one game, and then same thing when you lose a game, you're not out after you. They're best of 7 for a reason. So that's the biggest thing I learned from that run, was that like there's tons of highs and lows along the way, and you just got to manage them the best you can.
You had spoken about what you and the guys that came in were able to build with this St. James Junior Canucks team. Obviously, having to build again after that 2018-19 season, and this led to a pathway to where this team is at now in many ways, in terms of starting to build that culture up again in 2019, 2021. Players like Cale Price, who's now the captain of this team, Brady Whiteley and Noah Gilbert came in. Talk about, what that process was like, building, what is now the defending back-to-back champion Canucks into what they were starting in that 2019-2020 season.
Yeah, the year after we went to the finals, that was the year we played the whole season, and then no playoffs because of COVID. So we didn't get any playoffs that year, but we did have a lot of turnover because there were so many 21-year-olds when we went to the finals. But we brought back a decent amount of guys. But then the key guys that we brought in are the ones that are still with us now, like you said, Cale Price, Noah Gilbert between the pipes, and then and Brady Whiteley. They all came in as 17-year-olds, which isn't super common in our league. You get the odd one that'll come and play as 17, but they came in at 17 and were like impactful right away. Like they were all players that could have been playing at a different level. They just decided for one reason or another that they wanted to be a part of the program and wanted to play with us. And you could tell right from the start, like Brady Whiteley, his older brother, Mac, was on the team. So him coming, wanting to play with his brother. He's also best friends with Kale and Noah. So, and then like him deciding to come along with Kale and Noah was kind of not the turning point because we had gone to the finals, but it kind of made a lot of other players their age realize that it was a good place to come and play. And they had a good time playing for us. They were having some success. Next thing you know, a couple more of their buddies come. And then over the last few years, we've been able to get lots of those guys. So those three were a huge part of it. And then other guys after that along the way. But those guys coming in a year earlier and having some success really, really kind of set the tone for the next few years.
Yeah, and what a past 2 seasons it's been for this club. Back-to-back championship runs, getting better in 2023 or 2022, 2023 in terms of the regular season record. Talk about that first run though, back in 2021, 2022, the first championship this franchise has seen since 97, 98. Getting over that hump finally and doing it against Pembina Valley, a team you guys faced off against in the finals appearance in 2018-19. Go back to how special that year truly was for this organization in St. James.
Yeah, it was obviously, like lots of good times along the way, but it was a different year, like in terms of not coming out of COVID, not really knowing what to expect out of training camp, and because we had the whole previous season, there was really no season other than like 5 games, so guys have had like a year off of hockey, right? So you're not sure which teams are going to be good, where you fit in. Hopefully everybody's coming back, and guys didn't want to quit hockey after that. So we were fortunate to get a lot of guys back, added some key players like Tyrone, Willen, and Rory Neal. And then with our leadership group coming back, like Kale and Noah and Brady and the rest of the guys. But it was a special season. Like we had a lot of close games throughout the year. Our record was really good. We went on a couple long winning streaks, but the difference between that and some other years has been we were in a lot of tight games and we were winning in a lot of different ways, like winning some overtime games. Even when we would lose a tight game, they didn't happen very often. We were winning lots of tight games, and the guys just come playoff time were very ready because we had competed so hard all year long. And even though we finished with such a good record, I think we were 37-4-4. We didn't clinch first place until pretty late in the year. Like Transcona was having a really good year. Pembina Valley was having a really good year. It was kind of the three of us very tight at the top, which was weird because of how good our record was. Theirs was just as good. So it was like weird to have such a tight race when you're winning so many games. Just every time we'd look at the standings, they were winning too. So it kept us on our toes in terms of like, well, we need to win this game tonight. Lots of must-win games throughout the year, and I think that prepared us well for the playoffs. Then once we got in the playoffs, like the crowd turnout was great. Like lots of alumni coming out cheering us on, and it was you could really feel the community get behind the team, which was I think awesome for the guys, and especially those last couple games. Like we were playing at the Iceplex because Civic was closed that year, so we were playing at the Iceplex, and the place was just packed, and the guys loved it. So it was a great year for sure.
Yeah, and being able to get it done over a team, like you said, that was very good that season in the Pembina Valley Twisters, a team, as mentioned, this Canucks franchise losing to them in 2018-19. To do it over them, obviously a different looking team than what that 2018-19 team was, but to get it done over a team like Pembina Valley, how special was that, being able to do that in the end to gain that first championship for you and that team in this era for the Canucks?
Yeah, it was it was good. Like it was like winning no matter who you're beating is going to be special, but it was the way we lost in the finals that one year to them. I feel like we kind of owed them one, and so when we I know they played Transcona in the semifinal, the other semifinal. So we were watching that series to see who we were going to get once ours was done. And then it was just kind of like, once it was Pembina Valley, Like it was like, okay, perfect. Like it seemed like it was like that's the way we want. Like a few of us wanted to do it because there's lots of new players, right? So they weren't a part of it, but the guys that were there kind of knew the story, and for us as coaches, it was nice to get an opportunity to have a second crack at them, and yeah, it was a good series. There was lots of tight games, and even though we won it in five, there was a few tight ones there where it was like it was a really competitive series, and just kind of when we won game four out in Morris and to go up 3-1, it kind of made me think because when we lost, we had won game five in Morris and came home with a chance to clinch it, and we didn't do that. So when we're talking to the guys after, like before the game, it was just all about like, well, we don't want to take that bus ride back out there if we don't have to, right? So let's try and take care of business here, and you don't want to let games slip away because all of a sudden you lose one, it's 3-2, and then we're going back to their barn. So it was it was nice that we didn't have to go back out there, but yeah, it was good finals for sure.
Yeah, and I remember, watching that game live, that finals game. The team had a very business-like mentality, and it definitely translated on the ice. And not only that game, but throughout the entire season of success in that first championship since 97-98 for the Canucks. But going into last season, I mean, lots of returning players coming back who got a taste of winning the season before. The record was even better in the regular season the year compared to the year beforehand, in 2021, 2022. But the journey of going back to the finals, dropping that first game of the playoffs against the Reals, and then going into a physical series against a experienced Railer Express team with some talent. Did you feel like those were the types of moments, that journey to the finals, that pathway that this team needed in the end to have that success, to go out and sweep the Vicks in the championship series?
Yeah, I think so. I think we got we got a good wake up call right in the first game, right? Like St. P gave us a good series. Again, it was 5 games, but it was some really close games, and they came out hungry in the first game. And I think it was good for our guys to realize because we'd gone into the playoffs on a bit of a winning streak, and not we had we hadn't faced a ton of adversity like throughout the year. So it was good to get that in the first game of the playoffs to just let the guys realize it's a whole nother level. Like everybody's record is back to 0-0, and it's just about the race to 4 wins to get a series done. So they were able to come out and give us a good wake up call in that first game, and they were playing a physical style and really pushed us. So and then we were able to respond. And then when we played Transcona, same thing. They came out. They were more ready to play in the first. We had a long layoff. They had gone, I think, a little bit longer in their series. Well, not very long. I think they won in 5 in their first round series anyway. But there was a bit of a layoff because the other series had gone 7, so we were kind of waiting to play each other. And then that layoff, like we didn't come out of it as ready as we should have, and they did and beat us in game 1 and totally outplayed us. Like that was credit to them. But then as the series went on, we won that game 2 in double overtime, and we were able to. They were trying to play a physical style and trying to maybe push us around a little bit, which was understandable, and we were prepared for it. And had a little turned into a bit of a special teams battle. So we had to make sure we were sharp on that and making some adjustments, and then we were able to come out. And then by the time we got to the finals, it was like, okay, we should have learned our lesson here for game 1. So let's be ready. And we did. We came out with I think we won the first game 7-2. And then we were able to kind of roll from there. But we got a good wake up call in the first 2 rounds for sure.
Obviously, for this group, it seems like winning is kind of became contagious. I mean, back-to-back championships, 23 returning players for this year's roster, and off to a 7-1 start. But the first loss of the season came just 2 days ago against the finalists from last season in St. Vital. 5-1 loss at their home barn at the Centennial. You had talked about to me after the game, since I was there, how this team, ran into some penalty trouble, got frustrated, and that kind of set the course for the rest of the game for St. Vital to to get the win. Do you feel like moments like these, though, especially early in the season, even though the team started off with 7 straight wins, is kind of needed when you're a team that's had so much championship success in the past 2 years?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a fair point. Like they were very ready to play. Our guys, we not a like the first two periods were close, back and forth. They were maybe outplaying us a bit, but there you could tell they were fired up and like going into the arena where we won it last year. They were obviously wanting to make a point and defend their rink and all that stuff, and they did a good job of that. They're a fast team. They were pushing the pace, and it's a small ice surface there, so it's um, like it just felt like a pretty quick game, and we were able to tie it up before the end of the second, and then we just got ourselves in some penalty trouble and weren't able to kill penalties like we should have, and we took too many of them. And you give a good team that many chances on the power play, they're gonna make you pay, which is what they did. And it's like I said to the guys after, like it can go one of two ways. You're either going to complain about the way the game went, or you're going to learn from it. And hopefully we learn from it. We'll find out Friday. We have another game coming up here, and um, it's one of those things where when you get those opportunities, when we have been fortunate to be winning a decent amount of games in the last couple of years, like when you do lose a game or when you do have one that's tighter than it should be, you got to learn from it, and you can't just be like, oh geez, we got away with that one. Like you gotta I think the takeaway from last game is that we got to know that teams are coming for us all the time, and everybody's excited to play us and wants to see where they fit in and stuff like that. So um, we've had a lot of tests so far this year. That was definitely the best one, so credit to them. They had a really good game.
You feel like that's a huge bonus of being not only a defending champion, but winning the championship trophy in back-to-back seasons, is that you're going to get every team's best most likely when they come to play you, no matter if it's at home or on the road. Do you feel like that's going to be key for this year's success of this team trying to get back to another finals appearance to go through adversity in those ways?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Like there's lots of teams in our league that are capable of winning every night. Like everybody seems to be beating everybody a lot of the time. And if you take a night off, like it's uh, it's a really good league with lots of good players, and they're spread out across the league. So if you take a night off, or if you think that you don't need to work hard one night, you're gonna get like it's gonna come back to bite you. And that's what happened to us on Sunday. And I think moving forward, like you got to be ready to see teams best. I think that will benefit us in the long run. And even talking with our leaders at practice over the last couple of days, it's just like you expect that. Like, and if you, we've been talking about it as coaches, but until they see it as players and see the negative result of it, then they're just gonna. It's only natural. They're just gonna, if they're getting away with stuff, then that's what happens, right? So it's for them to get pushed and then come out on the wrong side of one, hopefully benefits us, but we just don't want to see that happen too many times.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, it hasn't happened too many times so far this season. Only once. This team 7-1 so far, 40 goals for, 20 goals against. Really solid on special teams. A lot of returning players in 23 of them, and still on top so far through the 8 games by 2 points over a team that you're ahead of by only 2 points that you'll be facing off against Sunday in the Hawks at their barn in Eric Coy. First up for the weekend of play for this Canucks team, of course, as you know, Blair is against the Railer Express at home at Abe McDonald Arena in about 3 days time from now on Friday night. Talk about what the week of preparation has been like for these upcoming matchups where teams are going to be gunning for this Canucks team again.
Yeah, yeah, it's like any other week. We got some stuff we need to work on, like based off of last weekend. I think special teams are a big part of it. Lots of times when we play Transcona, that's kind of the way those games go. Is you're either killing penalties or on the power play, or sometimes if it's going to be a bit of a rougher contest, and it's been successful for them the last couple of years. So our guys, we've played them in the playoffs last year. A few years ago, we played them in the playoffs, so we've got some history with them. But I know they've they've come out on the wrong end of a couple lately, but they always seem to have some tight games. They're pretty stingy defensively most of the time. So we got to work on a couple things for that, and we will, and we have. And then Charleswood is a natural rival of ours, like just across the bridge, right? So it's that dates back a long time. And now that both teams have been having some success to start the year, it should be a good game. We had a good game with them in our season opener. It was pretty tight. But yeah, they've had some guys fill in the net and stuff. So got to make sure we're sharp defensively. And the same thing, special teams are such a big part of it now, especially early in the year. It seems like refs are calling a decent amount of penalties both ways. So there's lots of opportunities to kill and on the power play. But just got to make sure you're sharp in those areas, no matter who you're playing. And then you tweak a couple things based on who you're playing. But it should be a good weekend.
Well, Coach, I think the whole mmjhl world will be watching closely to how this Canucks team fares this season, a team that, every team in the league is gunning for to try to beat them on a night in, night out basis when they do play you guys. I wish you and the rest of the squad the best of luck coming up this weekend against the Railer Express and the Hawks, and thanks for taking the time for doing this. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, and thanks for doing a good job covering the league and stuff. It's good to see the league getting some exposure.
And Blair Mooney, head coach of the St. James Junior Canucks, joining this edition of the MMJHL podcast for our second episode, sponsored by, didn't even mention them in the intro, realized afterwards, but we're brought to you by, as you've seen throughout this episode so far, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. Visit their store locations in Brandon and Winnipeg today, and also give their website a visit as well to check out their great products. We got Terrico. They've been serving Manitoba producers in the agricultural industry for over 80 years, as you can see there on screen. Be sure to check out their website if you are in the agricultural industry and are looking to, upgrade on some things. Terrico offers a great line of tools. And then talking about goaltenders, well, this guy knows how to do that. And Gordy Tummelson, visit GordyTummelsonGoalies.ca today to experience goaltenders, your goalie's personal video review service. And yeah, I think that loss for the St. James Junior Canucks is just a little bump in the road. I think that this team, on paper with 23 returning players, the amount of goals they've put up so far, the amount of goals they've let up, the most complete team and still the team to beat, but St. Vital proving that they can be that team that can go out and do it. Taking advantage of St. James' undisciplined play, going 3 for 11 on power play. St. James couldn't capitalize on theirs, going 1 for 6. And a real standout for the Vics in this game was not only their goal scoring, spreading it out 5 different goal scorers in the win in the finals rematch, but their goaltending. Francois Gagnon made 38 saves on 40 shots against. His save percentage has been phenomenal to start the season. 3-0-1 to start things off record-wise, and he's made some big saves and some big moments early on for this St. Vital Junior Victoria's team. Taking a look at the rest of the results from the past weekend of action, St. Vital actually dropped their first game of the week at home on that Thursday night against the Pembina Valley Twisters. Taking a look at the Friday slate of games that happened, the Charleswood Hawks winning big, St. Boniface going into Century Arena and taking care of business against the Fort Garry Twins, the Royal Knights back into the win column on that Friday, and the Junior Canucks, of course, with a big 8-3 win over the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. On Sunday, as you could see there, some statement games like that St. Vital game, but also the Raiders Junior Hockey Club showing that they can bounce back against a usually scrappy opponent in the Transcona Railer Express. Taking a look at the point leaders, our next guest joining the show is Ryland Hueging. He has 17 points right now to lead the league. Looking at teammate Cam McDonald as well, 2 points behind him, and Ben Zander, who's leading the league in assists. I had a chance to talk to Ryland about playing with a guy in Cam McDonald, as well as talking about his transition over to the MMJHL from the MJHL, what his experience has been so far with the Charleswood Hawks, or how it's been like so far going on that semifinals run last year, and of course things to start off this season. You're watching the MMJHL podcast for episode 2, brought to you by Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. Enjoy this interview I had with Ryland Hueging last night. Coming up next. Leading scorer in the MMJHL of the Charleswood Hawks, Ryland Hueging, joined me on this edition of the MMJHL podcast. Ryland, the team's off to a really good start this year, 6-2 through the first 8 games. How nice is it to get off to this type of start in another competitive season of MMJHL hockey?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. And yeah, we're off to the start we wanted. I think last year we kind of ended hot going to playoffs, and we're picking up right where we left off.
For you last season, it was your rookie year with this Hawks team. Beforehand, you spent a full season the year before with the Winnipeg Freeze in the MJHL. You played about 7 games in the SJHL with the Notre Dame Hounds before coming over to Charleswood. Talk to me in terms of what went down for you to become a Charleswood Hawk through all of that.
The summer after my full year with the Freeze, I worked out with Will Kinsman at his undefeated gym. And, my whole goal was to go down to the States and stuff like that. And all summer is kind of poking me a little bit about coming to play Charleswood. And then I just went out to Notre Dame, and yeah, I just wasn't the same. Just wasn't having a ton of fun, and, things weren't really working out. And then I had a few buddies who joined Charleswood, and a couple of them were texting me throughout the year. And yeah, I decided to come play, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, you put up 48 points in the 41 regular season games, 17 points in the 14 playoff games played. But talk about how last season's group, once you came there, was able to bond from your perspective in terms of the overall growth the team saw successfully as the season went along.
Yeah, for sure. As the season went on, we really improved. I think around January, end of January, our team really came together. Not only on the ice, but off the ice, like whether that's going to the bar as a team after games or that kind of thing. We really gelled as a team, and it showed on the ice. We started playing as one unit, and I think that has to do with a lot of success, to be honest with you, is the gelling coming together as a group.
You had spoken about Will Kinsman and how, or Kinsman, and how he had really poked at you to come play for Charleswood. Obviously, a pretty good staff in Charleswood.
Oh, yeah.
Hueging also being there, becoming a part of the staff. Could you talk about how much of an impact? Obviously, players have to go out and do it, but the job that staff has been able to do these past 2 years to supply this organization with the talent it has.
Oh, yeah. Charleswood Hawks is probably one of my favorite places I've ever played hockey. It's a first-class organization. It starts at the top. It starts with the GM, Tim Scher, doing everything he can for the players, and it works your way down to, the coaches. Kenner, great guy, loves to talk, loves to hang out, great coach. And you got Zings and Smitties. They're both, guys love to shoot the talk and kind of thing. And, just love to hang out, and they know what they're talking about. So definitely comes down to the coaching staff, and it's very ideal for players coming in. It's a very attractive team to play for.
Yeah, and before we continue, very impressed that you caught yourself there and just
Yeah.
one flip, but it's all good at the end of the day. For you last season, seems like you really found your place in the junior hockey world with this Charleswood team. 48 points in the 41 regular season games, like mentioned. You've proven you can be a playoff performer. Talk about how that full season last year was so huge for the type of growth you were able to experience as a player in year one.
Yeah, I think coming in last year, I was hoping to play an important role on the team and come in and make an impact. And I think as the season went on, for myself personally, again, that January, February time, I started, finding the back of the net more and finding teammates. And yeah, I think in terms of individually, my season really picked up near the end, and I, had a nice little point streak or whatever going into playoffs. And, we didn't accomplish what we wanted in playoffs, fell short. But I think definitely a big learning experience for us. I think we learned some lessons from it. and I'm really excited to see what we do this year.
Yeah, and you keep bringing up the January, February part of the season. This Hawks team rallied off 13 wins out of the last 15 games to secure third place. You talked about how it was huge about the group coming together and bonding and playing as one unit. Can you speak to, how this Hawks team played at their best to be able to do that on ice in terms of the things y'all were doing as a unit?
I think it just comes down to, buying in, like playing as a team, whether that's with their systems or that kind of thing. Just have the confidence. I think confidence is a big thing in hockey. If you go into a game kind of like iffy on if you're going to win or not, you're probably not going to win. So I think as, we kind of started to get hot, our confidence grew, and we kind of started going into these games thinking that, we're going to win it. And a lot of them we ended up winning.
7 game series in both of the playoff rounds you boys had, losing to the eventual finalists in the St. Vital Junior victories. You had spoken about how there were a lot of lessons learned. Can you point more to those lessons in terms of what you and the rest of the group returning this year especially took out of it?
I think a big thing is playing full 60 minutes. I know we were up up 2-1 series lead against the Vicks, and we are up like 5-1, I think, with 10 minutes left in the third period. And, they came back and kind of turned the whole tide of the series. And I think that's kind of been a bit of a storyline for us is, we will have a lead going to third, and, we'll find a way to blow it. We did it twice against PV in the first series. So a big thing for us, and the coaching staff has really talked about it this year, and the leaders have really talked about it. It's been a big focus, is playing a full 60 minutes. You can't let off the gas even when you're up.
Yeah, for sure. And I witnessed you boys blow a lead against the Reals in that game a few
Yeah.
weeks ago in a very tight one. But it's early in the season, and a lot of things seem to be going right. This team is 6-2, as mentioned, second place in the league, and winning in different ways, coming back, winning in high scoring matchups, 1-goal games. Speak more about the start in that way in terms of the multiple ways this Hawks team has found ways to win so far.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's come down to just, like I said, playing full 60 minutes. I mean, we've had moments where, we've been outplayed kind of thing, and, Meadows have held us in. We've had moments where I think we were outplaying the other team, but we couldn't find the back of the net. And I think a couple wins this year has definitely come in that gut check time, not letting off the gas and continuing. And then I think the boys have just been hot to start the season. We've got a lot of balances, and we've been finding the back of the net. And like as a unit, I think we're playing really well. Like we've been very good at establishing like pressure and setting up the cycle in the zone and coming in off the rush. I think things have just been clicking right now, and so it's going well, and I don't see it stopping.
Yeah, and obviously some good returning talent coming into this year, some fresh faces in there as well. The same staff, which is nice, but balance has been a huge part of this team's success. Obviously, starting with guys like you, Cam McDonald, Matt Carlson, Ben Zander's been able to put the puck in the net. Can you speak to how you think this is going to serve this team well as the season goes along in terms of not only having one or two guys that can put the puck in the net, but a whole bunch of guys?
Yeah, I think if you look at our depth, especially in this league as a team, it's pretty impressive. I think we have, a number of guys who've played junior A, who've had success at the junior A level. So I think, I think a lot of it, our core has been really producing stuff like that. But, even when our core isn't, producing the depth on our team, whether that's our third or fourth line, like on other teams, I don't see those lines as third or fourth lines. I think especially our defense too. I think this through our whole lineup, we're a deep team, and we can wear teams down like that. We're pretty fast, and when you keep rolling out lines that can compete, it wears teams down. And I think that helps us out.
And that's been proven at times so far this season. Going to be interesting to see how it continues along, if it trends in that upward direction. But have you had a chance to play on a line with McDonald and Carlson this year, or have you been playing with someone else?
I started the season with Denis and Xander, and then Denis got hurt against the Twins, and I've been playing with Cam and Zan since. I actually played with Carl 2-3 years ago with the Freeze. Spent some time with lineies with him, but not so far this year.
How's that been, getting to reunite with him?
It's good. Yeah, I mean, me and Carl are good buddies. I remember when he was first thinking of coming, I send him a text and pull him about how good it is or how fun it is and stuff like that, and how I enjoyed the decision. And it's awesome. Like when you come to the rink and you have all your buddies from around the city and stuff like that, it's definitely fun. Like there's times in the past where I wasn't so excited to go to hockey, and then now I can't think of a practice or a game where I wasn't up for, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's a huge part, right? Especially now in a league where there's so many more commitments that the boys have in terms of going to school and working a job.
Mhm.
Great that you've been able to find some motivation in a place like Charleswood, a very historic organization here in this league. But talk about what it's been like being able to play with the line mates you've been playing with so far to produce the results that the line has.
Yeah, me, Kevin, Zans, we've been hot to start the season. Yeah, I didn't play much last year with Cam. I played a lot with Zans. I think me and Zans started playing together in January, and he's just a all 200-foot player. Both ends of the ice. He is skilled forward, makes great passes. A couple of my goals this year, all the credit goes out to him, finding me all alone in the slot, and he's just a very reliable and smart hockey player. And then Cam brings a ton of speed, ton of skill up the left-hand wing, and I think we've just kind of clicked since the beginning. The Chem's been off the charts, and the boys have been hot.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you and Cam both top two in the league in points so far. Xander, 13 points in 8 games played for himself. But for you, you'd spoken about how you've been finding yourself open in the slot. Will you say that that's one of your best aspects maybe as a player, is your play without the puck to present yourself as that big time option?
I'd like to think that I can find the soft spots. I'd say my bread and butter is kind of in front of the net kind of thing, finding the open areas, banging home rebounds, that kind of thing. But yeah, I would say without the puck, I'm pretty good at like kind of reading plays, kind of seeing how they're developed and finding the soft spot.
For your team coming up this weekend, Ryland, 2 big tests, of course, going up against the St. Vital Vics on Friday night, and then on Sunday afternoon going up against the St. James Junior Canucks. Both games going to be at home. Two teams that could very well be near the top of the standings this season. The finalists from last year in St. Vital, the champs in St. James. What's the mindset for this team heading in to a weekend with 2 pretty big early season tests?
I think we're excited. It's definitely going to be a test, kind of see where other teams rank. In terms of the Vics, I have a couple buddies on that team, some friendly banner going on, and I'm excited to play them. And then same goes the Canucks. They're the 2-time champs, the defending champs. So every time you play a team like that, it's easy to get up for and you're excited for. So yeah, I think just the mentality going into it is to have confidence, play hard, and have some fun.
Does that friendly banter get you just a bit more fired up?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you send them the text before the game, see out there kind of thing, and yeah, it definitely fires you up a little bit.
Well, it's going to be an exciting couple of matchups, I think so anyways, for the Charleswood Hawks coming up at home on this weekend as the mmjhl continues to roll along for this early 2023-2024 regular season. Ryland Hueging, lead scorer so far in the mmjhl for the Charleswood Hawks, joining me on this edition of the mmjhl podcast on G Show Productions. Ryland, thanks for doing this, and best of luck coming up in these 2 big matchups.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Ryland Hueging joining this edition of the mmjhl podcast, of course, brought to you by Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. And yeah, for Ryland Hueging, he has been sensational to start the season. Taking a look at the points leaders, not only him, just talking about the other guys as well, and Cam McDonald and Ben Zander. They've all been fantastic this year. 3 players in the top 5 is always a nice thing, but Hueging especially, bearing the goals in this early stretch of games, in the 8 games. If you look at it, he's got 11 goals. The next best is his teammate in Cam McDonald. And taking a look at the assists leaders, Ben Zander, his teammate, of course, tied for the lead in that category with Tyrone Willen. And getting to something that I forgot to do last time there wasn't a guest in this episode was update you guys on the game happening tonight, the lone game in the mmjhl, in the Fort Garry Twins taking on the Stonewall Jets. The Jets looking for their first win of the season, and they very well might get it. With 10:54 remaining, as per the latest update from the mmjhl's website, Stonewall is up 2-1 in the third period against Pat Power's former team in the Fort Garry Twins, as he was the coach for them last year. And if if Stonewall is able to hold on in this one, they will win their first game of the season. Hopefully I don't end up jinxing them, but yeah, they've only got 1 point in the 6 games so far. The Fort Garry Twins and them both outside of the playoffs. It is early on, but this one would be huge for Stonewall to finally get in the win column. And speaking of the mmjhl standings, just taking a look at the rest of it, of course, St. James on top at 14 points. The Charleswood Hawks and St. Boniface Riels heading into this Friday and Sunday slate of games tied for second place, and then the Raiders Junior Hockey Club right behind these two teams at 10 points. St. Vital also right there, and yeah, things, not much separation throughout the standings to start off the league this season, and I think that's fantastic to see. Great to see a lot of good, tight competition so far, and as Blair Mooney had said, anyone can beat anyone on any given night in this league if you're not prepared to play. But yeah, that's about going to do it. I'll come back with some final notes on this edition of the mmjhl podcast, brought to you by, of course, Cannon Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. Well, you've made it to the end of this edition of the mmjhl podcast, or so you think. I'm just going to end off with some final words in terms of the upcoming weekend, in terms of what I think. I think that the St. James Junior Canucks, like I talked about, their team is talented as anyone, probably the most talented team in the league on paper. And yeah, they open up the season with 7 wins. They lose their first game of the year this past Sunday against the St. Vital Junior Victorias. Give the Victorias credit, though, as they battled hard and are proving that they are going to be a contender most likely once again. If the 8 games are any indication of it, they dropped that game on Thursday, but bounced back with a spirited and hard-fought performance to end up overpowering the St. James Junior Canucks in that game on the power play, as they had those 11 opportunities and scored 3 times. But for St. James, you know, they got that championship experience more than any team in the league for the past 2 seasons, being back-to-back defending champs. I feel like they're in for a rebound, a bounce back this weekend. I think that the tougher game of the two most likely is going to be on Sunday, as the Charleswood Hawks have started off this season in a really strong way. They're tied with the Canucks in terms of most goals for in the league. Heading into this Friday and Sunday slate of games, they got excellent depth, great top-end talent, and it's a team that I think if they elevate their game a bit more defensively, this team could very well also be a contender. I think they already are at this point early on in the season, establishing themselves as that. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the middle. How will the Riels continue to play, as they've been winning games in close fashion to start off this year? One of the most exciting stories in the league. Will the Royal Knights continue to win? How will Fort Garry bounce back if they end up losing this game, or how will Stonewall, if they end up losing tonight? So a lot of good, intriguing storylines heading into this weekend of play in the mmjhl. I want to thank all of you for tuning into this one. I've been your host, Graeme, the G Show Forsyth. Special thanks to you, the viewer, for watching, of course, like I just said, but special thanks to these guys in Terrico, Mid-Canton Fasteners and Tools, and Goaltenders for sponsoring this edition of the mmjhl podcast. For episode 2, it's been fun getting to talk with some great individuals from a very talented junior hockey league here in Manitoba that we're proud to give coverage to. We may be live streaming the game between the Twins and Railer Express this Friday, so mark your calendars. We don't know if we're doing it on YouTube or on Vimeo OTT yet. Stay tuned on our social media page for details on that. At the very least, we'll be recording the game, so you guys can watch. Stay tuned for tomorrow on the network, as we will be airing our next edition of the Jet Fuel Podcast, G Show Productions official Winnipeg Jets podcast. Scott Billick may be on the show as a guest, maybe making an appearance, so that is very exciting. It may just be me going solo. I might be joined by a buddy. You'll have to wait to find out. 9 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. We'll have information on our social media page as well is on our website at gshow.ca in terms of all our upcoming events, so stay tuned for that to see what's featured in next week's episode. Excited to finally potentially get to live streaming games like promised to you folks out there. We're going to be doing a game on Friday and Sunday, so it's going to be great. Just to let you guys know all our details at the places I said, of course. But Graeme the G Show Forsyth giving you the salute, peacing out and saying so long, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend, soaking in some mmjhl hockey, and I'll see you next Tuesday for another edition of this podcast on G Show Productions. Take care.